So here at the bottom of page 12 in the big blue packet, it talks about where to go if you want more practice. And so in this section, this is where we had that quick check where we just did some arithmetic stuff. This was the very end of the first class, and we had these 40 problems, and I timed you and gave you only 2 minutes. But I didn't tell you where to go if you had any trouble with any of the problems, or if you weren't able to get all the way through and get, I think the goal was 37 out of 40 of these correct. So if you go into Moodle, there are a lot of resources there, and in particular, I want to point out a new one to you. There's a folder called Moodle Practice, and then there's 2 documents that are referenced here, both of them called Lesson 0. So I've opened up Moodle already. It looks like this. And if you go into Moodle Practice, that folder, you will find a whole long collection of PDFs. And each of these PDFs, I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see some titles, but each of these PDFs represents some more practice for you. Completely optional, never going to grade them. But if you want more practice, I am here to give you more practice. And here's a bunch of it. And so, for example, if you had any trouble with that arithmetic quick check at the end of the first class, you can see up here, lesson 0, multiplying, lesson 0, multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. Lesson 0, small positive numbers, adding them, subtracting them, multiplying them, dividing them. So lots of practice, lots of places to practice if you have trouble with anything. And the rest of them are actually numbered by the lesson number that we use here in class. So today I think we're on lesson 3. And if you want more practice with what we're going to do today, you've got 2 PDFs right there. Okay, something else you can use to practice your arithmetic is this thing here, again on the main Moodle page, called Jason's program. Inside of there you will find lots of stuff, but let me actually just show you the thing. So Jason is my brother, and he wrote a program to help me do something that has nothing to do with this class, but I said, wait a minute, I think we can use his program to help folks in this class. And so basically it's just like this digital flashcard thing. And so right now this is going to flash up here a random multiplication problem going from 0 times 0 up to 12 times 12. So you hit the space bar and it pops up a random problem, and in my head or out loud I say, oh, 10 times 0 is 0, and on the right hand side shows me the answer, and I took 5.03 seconds. You don't need to worry about the time. And then I hit the space bar and it gives me another one, and I say, oh, that's 30, and I hit the space bar. Oh, that's much faster, isn't that good? And then we'll do another one here. 8 times 3 is 26. I hit the space bar. Oh, I made a mistake. So how do you tell the program you made a mistake? Well, down here at the bottom it says hit the letter S to save this entry for later. So I'm going to hit the S, and it's going to tell me that that entry was saved. And now I'm going to keep going. I'll do 2 more here. 12 times 5, that's 60. And then 1 more, 2 times 8, 14. Oh, I got that one wrong too. I know how to save it, so I hit the S. Okay, now, if you come up here and you go into this thing that says show statistics, then it shows me, I'm going to change this filter down to 0. This shows me all of the problems that I just did. Every single one of the 5 things that I did is up here. These are ordered by time. So the slowest one for me was that first one at 5 seconds. And then these 2 are the ones that I got wrong, that I said save these for later. And so if I wanted to, I can say, all right, I'm just going to practice the ones that took more than 3 seconds. How many of these is real small, but how many of these took more than 3 seconds? Just the one. So as soon as I pop this filter up to 3 seconds, it's only going to show me the ones that took more than 3 seconds. And it's going to keep those saved ones no matter what I do. And if I hit review, it is going to not just randomly give me any multiplication problem, it's going to randomly give me one of these that I want to practice. So it's just going to keep hitting me with those 3 problems until I get better at it. So the space bar, oh, 2 times 8. Last time I said 14, but it's 16. Okay, that's the right answer. 10 times 0. That one I got right before, but it took me a long time. Okay, that's faster. 2 times 8 again, that's still 16. And so you can keep drilling the ones that you have trouble with, right? Over and over and over again. And even more, you can say, well, I really have difficulty with my 8s. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to say start with 8 times 0 and end with 8 times 12. And it's only going to test me on my 8 multiplication. So this particular one is only, something is funny there. Why did it? Oh, we're still in review mode. Sorry. Clear. There we go. So here's my 8 times tables, right? So it only gives me 8s. Is it only multiplication? No, there's a lot more stuff actually. So I don't think there's a division one, but we got the other operations covered. So let me show you exactly what's inside of Jason's program here. So there is addition, 0 to 20 added to 0 to 10. There's addition and subtraction from minus 10 to 10. There's addition and subtraction a lot bigger, minus 40 to 40. There's addition and subtraction, all positive differences, 0 to 10. Here's the multiplication we just did. There's multiplication, but with negative numbers as well. And then there's a subtraction one down here. So there are a lot of different things to practice on, right? You just have to choose the one that you want. The directions for how to download the program and how to use the program are right here on Excel. And then I've included a sheet where you can keep track of your progress if you want to do that too. Okay, last thing about this, downloading this is a very particular thing to do. Like, things have to be put in exactly the right folders for everything to work, and it's kind of a pain, and I tried to come up with a nice way to do it, but the restrictions that Moodle puts on the way that I post things here made it so it's going to be a pain for you. That said, if you have a flash drive, bring it in to me anytime. We will pop it into this machine. I will give you the entire program in exactly the folders that it's supposed to be in, and you don't have to worry about the whole downloading thing. Also, hopefully by the end of this week, this program will be on all the computers in the Math Studio. And you could also bring your flash drive over there and just grab the whole thing because it will already be in the right folders there too. Questions on this? Well, let me know if it's useful to you. I'm hoping that it is. Yeah, so check it out. It's a good thing to practice with. Okay, good. All right, so I think we are moving on then. So let's jump to the next section of stuff. So in the blue packet, we are now jumping to page 23. Page 23 in blue. Okay, so we just talked about Jason's program. We did not talk about this document called Organizing to Learn, but if organization is a weakness for you and you want to get better at it, there's a document that you can check out up on our Moodle page inside of the Study Tools folder. And then we'll move on to this heads up. Can we jump back to Nicole? Could you read the heads up for us, please? Thank you. Sam, are you on page 23? We're right below the heads up. Thank you. Caroline. Okay, moving on to Morgan. Inundated. Yeah, everything that we do is all of a sudden going to have negative numbers every place. So for this first few weeks, we're going to keep negative numbers away from the algebra. And then all of a sudden, the negative numbers are just going to come barreling into just about every problem that we do. Leanne? Strong suggestion. Okay, thank you. Sophie. Say it again. Sadie, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go to the folder titled Moodle Practice on our website, download PDF files on the numbers. Go to the folder titled Jason's Program on our Moodle site, and look for how to use this program to practice operations. Get help in the Math Studio. Use internet resources such as
Khan Academy. That's it.
search for the word negative.
Okay, so today we cover negatives. We're going to keep them out of the algebra for the next few weeks, but between now and when we start with the negatives in chapter 2, it is your job to get comfortable with negatives if you aren't already there. All right, so this is like advance warning. Sandy, my colleague, has taught this course many times, and she has realized that you can have folks that are doing wonderfully in algebra and then all of a sudden go from like A's to F's. And she finally discovered it was because of the difficulty that some people have with the arithmetic of negative numbers. So that's why we introduce it here early. We're not going to be like working through negative numbers together every day for the next 2 weeks. It's today. This is your introduction and your early warning that negative numbers are coming. And between now and the time that they come, use these resources to get comfortable with them, okay? All right, so here's a note. Although we keep negatives out of the algebra we learn for the next month, we do quiz and test you on your ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with negative numbers, all right? So on the very first quiz, you will find some arithmetic of negative numbers problems. Before we go to the next page, let's pause right here for just a moment. So on the next page, there's something like 16 arithmetic problems I'm going to ask you guys to do first individually, and then I'll ask you to talk together. But the important thing here is that it is done individually at the start. So even though many of you are working together so well already, I'm going to ask you to do this individually. The other thing I'll say about this before we jump in, there are like a million different ways to think about adding and subtracting with negative numbers. And so I don't want to like teach you what I think is the best way at the outset. I want you to have a few minutes to remember how you deal with negative numbers. However you think about them is fine. Okay, so on the next page, you're just going to try these things individually, 1 through 4, no calculators, and then I'll let you know when it's okay to chat with your neighbors about them. Go ahead. Okay, so let's take a look at each of these right here. So the first one, -9 divided by -3. Surprisingly, multiplication and division are easier than addition and subtraction. As long as you know the basic rules about what to do with negatives, multiplication and division are really easy, and it's the same rules. So the fact is, if you take a negative and divide it by another negative, what kind of a thing do you get? You get a positive. So I'm just going to ignore those two. In fact, I might even change them both to pluses, because I know that a negative divided by a negative is a plus. So this problem is really just asking +9 divided by +3, and the answer is +3, and that's it. So the rules for multiplying and the rules for dividing are actually written out right here. We just took a look at this one. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, okay? And you just have to know that if you see one negative in a division or multiplication, the whole thing is negative. And that's what these two things right here say. Positive divided by a single negative is negative. A single negative divided by a positive is negative, okay? Single negative in a problem means that the whole thing is negative. And the rules for multiplying are exactly the same, which is kind of convenient. So if you know one, then you know the other. The first column is exactly the same as the second column, except the first column is multiplication. Second column is division, okay? So that's pretty much all there is to know about multiplying and dividing. Adding and subtracting is another story. It's a lot more complicated for adding and subtracting. So let me start by saying this. I'm going to present what I think is the easiest way to understand adding and subtracting with negatives. But if you've got a way that works for you, keep doing it. I don't want to say you have to do it my way. I want you to do it any way that works. I'm just going to show you one way. Okay, next one down here. 9 minus -6. Let's think about this in terms of money. Let's say that your current balance in your bank account is $9. And then you subtract, meaning you owe -$6. Well, owing -$6, that kind of sounds funny to me. Like normally I would owe $6. But if I owe -$6, it kind of feels like somebody owes me that $6. So it's basically saying I start with $9, I lose -$6. That's a net gain. And those two subtractions in some sense cancel out. And I'm going to cancel them by making them both pluses. The whole thing turns into 15. If you see subtract and a negative, make them both plus. Subtract and negative, they both become pluses. One of my former colleagues here had this thing, which I don't think I'm going to quite get right, but she called it, here, I'll undo for a second. Whenever she would see, whenever she would see subtract and a negative, she would go quack, quack, and change them both to pluses. I don't get it. I don't know what it means, but maybe it's memorable. You see two minus signs, quack, quack, plus, plus, okay? And so this whole thing turns into just plain old 15. So that's the answer to that one, Caroline.
So that was -9.
Caroline is giving us a new problem to do. -9 minus -6, this? Yes.
So that was
Yes. So I see two negatives. I quack the two negatives. The -9 is sitting there in the front. But this is the problem here. So what does this mean? In my bank account, I have -$9. I'm in the hole by $9. Then I gain $6. I'm still in the hole, but not as bad. How much am I in the hole? $3. So in the hole, -3. Okay. Subtraction sign followed immediately by a negative. Quack, quack, make them both pluses. All right. The next one, -9 plus -6. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we? So I'm in the hole by $9. I gain a debt of $6. So if you're in the hole $9 and then you have another debt of $6, how much are you in the hole at the end? You're in the hole 15, so -15 is the answer there. Let's take a look at one more of these. Green, purple, blue is good. I want to pick I'm going to do number 2, -9 minus 6. -9 minus 6. One technique, and again, I'm not forcing you to use this technique, but one technique is to turn every subtraction problem that you see into an addition problem. And here's how you do it. I'm copying the first number, it's -9. Subtracting 6 is the same as adding -6. Subtracting 6 is the same as adding -6. So every time you see a subtraction problem, you can change it into an equivalent addition problem. There it is. And this problem is actually one that's in red over there already. I'm in the hole $9, plus I'm in the hole an additional $6. Altogether, I'm in the hole $15. So there's a money way to think about things. If that works for you, super. There's another way to think about things by considering these problems to kind of represent a hot air balloon ride. And sometimes you go up and sometimes you go down. That's what addition and subtraction does. There's that hot air balloon explanation up on Moodle. You can check it out. If it works for you, great. The point here is not to kind of know a lot of different ways to think about the arithmetic of negatives. The point is to be really good at one way. So it makes no difference to me what way you are good at, whether it's the money or the hot air balloon or something completely different. You just need to be good at it somehow, okay? All right, so down here, we just took a look at this. Here's a section that you'll see sometimes, notes for your later reference. So we looked at the multiplication rules. Here's the addition and subtraction rules. So addition is a lot more straightforward than subtraction. But anyway, the addition stuff is there. Subtraction is to, one way to think about subtraction is to convert a subtraction problem into an addition problem and then do the addition. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. That was this first green one. We had, if you ignore the black plus sign stuff, but we had 9 minus -6. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So that's that one. And then the bottom one says subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. That was this blue. We were subtracting 6, subtracting +6 is the same as adding -6. Okay? So every subtraction can right away turn into addition. Okay, so we're going to do more practice here. And again, this will be like a group time. We've done the individual time. I'm just going to put out there, adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing negative numbers, Not the most exciting thing in the world. This is not how I spend my weekends. I don't expect you're going to spend your weekends this way either once you get it. But you got to get to the point where you get it, okay? So on the next page, there is classwork. There is also a list of challenges. This is the first time we've seen this word, I think. So let me be clear. Every challenge problem is completely optional. Most of the stuff in the classwork section, I'm expecting you will complete. Whether you do it here in the classroom or finish it up later on your own, I don't know. But not the challenge problems. Challenge problems are for people who are the speed demons and can work through this very quickly and want something a little bit tougher, all right? But completely optional. And one last thing before you guys go to town here on these practice problems. There's the quick check in the usual place. I will stop you with 5 minutes left in class today and say jump here. But let me be clear about this practice section. Everybody see it on the next page? Practice, again, completely optional, but it gives you an opportunity to practice the section. And here is just more problems that look a lot like the ones you just did and the ones you're just about to do, but more practice. And one other thing I want to say, even though it's optional, a good reason for looking at the practice section is that sometimes it tells you where to go for more resources. And so in this case, it sends you to Moodle and a specific thing, the document we've already looked at today. Okay? All right, so yes, question.
The homework for today is the thing that
Great question. Thank you for asking it. So tonight's homework, let's pull it up. The homework for tonight, yeah, if you go to the schedule, it says that tonight's homework due on Wednesday the 11th is negative numbers, but you will always find the homework assignments in the same place, and that was in that green, the little 3-page green document. So let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Schedule, homework assignment sheet. So if you guys have that green 3-page thing handy, you'll see one that just says, you'll see an assignment that just says negative numbers. Okay, yeah, here it is here. Everybody see, we see here, negative numbers? This is in the required homework packet, which is that green packet. Okay, good question. If you get stuck, raise a flag. I will help if I can. Let's see how far we can get.